Nicole de Paula, founder and executive director of the Women Leaders for Planetary Health. I'm speaking from Germany, where we are hosted by the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies in Potsdam. And today I'm very pleased to welcome you to the session, Key Facts You Need to Know About Deep Seabed Mining. And one of the reasons we're hosting this conversation today is that if we didn't have this going through this COVID-19 pandemic, we would probably, some of us here, be in Jamaica, sunny Jamaica, the International Seabed Authority headquarters in Kingston. So not a resort, but definitely working together with member countries on regulations that define rules for exploration and exploitation of mineral resources related activities in the area. So that's the part of the ocean that belongs to not in a specific country, right, but to humankind as a whole. So to give us an overview about what is going on in the area, we are very pleased to have you, Maila Guilhon, and she is a PhD candidate at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, also a fellow of IASS, the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies, where we're hosted, and also an advisor to the Women's League for the Ocean. So before we start, just a bit of housekeeping. Maila, you have 10 minutes to share your presentation with us. And we would like to invite you to put your questions in the chat box here in the Q&A box. Please don't wait until the end because it's a very fast conversation and we would like to have some of, address some of your questions. And also would like to invite you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Here, I think you find the links in our chat as well. And join our LinkedIn group, because usually what happens is we don't have the time to address so many of the questions here, so we can continue the conversation online. So with that, I'm very pleased to have you, Maila. Please, the virtual floor is yours. I think you can maybe share your screen and
okay.
Conversation. Welcome.
Let's do it. So, hello everyone. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I want to first thank you, Nicole, for the opportunity to be here and having this space to speak a little bit about deep sea mining, but also thank to all of you that took some of your time to be here today, listening to this very brief talk, and hopefully you are all with your mugs having a break from your work and having a different time. So as Nicole already said, today I'm here to speak about key facts you need to know about deep seabed mining. But first of all, and first, the real thing that motivated me to do or to speak about deep sea mining is that 99% of the people I speak about what I actually do have no idea that this exists. So people ask me, okay, Maila, so what do you do? What is your research about? And then I say, okay, it's about deep sea mining. And then in the following second, I get this question mark face asking, is that such a thing? And yes, so deep sea mining is a thing and it exists. Basically, the idea of deep sea mining is just to extract mineral resources from very deep areas in the ocean. And by deep, I'm speaking about 2,000, 4,000 meters deep. So as you can imagine, it's very, very deep in the ocean. But this whole concept or this whole idea of what is the deep sea it was not very clear for us as it is more right now. In the beginning, people or more most of people had the idea that the deep ocean was a place just like this you're looking at your screen right now, just like nothing, a place empty, void of life, cold and full of pressure. And why would we think that this would be important, right? Why would we think that it is important to talk about it? It's nothing like. So we actually, with the research and with the industries that have advanced to the high seas and to start to explore these deep sea areas, we get to know that actually the deep sea is a very rich, complex, and even colorful place and full of life. Well, but then coming back a little bit for the mining thing activity, what are people really interested in? Why are they going so deep to mine? So actually they are going there for these potato-shaped type of structures that are known as polymetallic nodules. Whenever you get these structures, you are able to extract minerals that have a good importance for industry, such as cobalt, such as copper, nickel, and others. And the idea of really going down there and get this is actually really related to this speech of transitioning technology and going to a decarbonization of technology and such things. So actually the idea would be to really use these minerals captured from the deep sea for electric cars, or even batteries for our smartphones, or even photovoltaic type of cells. That's the real reason that is behind this deep sea mining idea. Well, actually, this idea of deep sea mining, of going down there and really seeing what kind of resources we have, is happening right now, but it's still as a test phase, or so to say. No one, no country, no state is really allowed to go deep and extract these minerals and put in a commercial status, or really use as a commercial thing. And just here I just bring this equipment so you guys have an idea of what the technology has been developed in order to really achieve these areas and really extract this type of resources. So that's actually what these interest parties are doing right now. While they do not care, can go there and extract these structures, they are really working in find a way to go there and really extract it. So as Nicole said, this activity takes places in the area. The area is actually a denomination for the seabed and subsoils that happen in areas that are not under the jurisdiction of any country or state. So as you can see in the map, we have a lot of these places spread for the whole globe. And even though if you look at it and it looks like a very small part of the map or nothing very relevant, they can really have the size of Europe in terms of area that it is under exploration activities right now. And as you can see, there are also many states or many nations which are really involved with this type of activity at this moment. So how does it work? Can anyone just, okay, I have money, I wanna go there and I wanna extract this type of minerals? This is not that easy. So first you need to have a company, a public or a private company that submit an application for an organ or an organization called International Seabed Authority. This is a UN-related organization that manages the deep sea areas, or the resources that are found in the area. So whenever these states get this license for exploration from the International Seabed Authority, they are allowed to explore, or to go for economic, technological, or even environmental studies in these areas of interest. They have the exclusive right to go there and really understand what would be the possibilities for a future extraction of these resources, which actually is called exploitation. I know it sounds a really bit confused, but we actually have this nomenclature for the deep sea mining regime. Exploitation means to really take out resources from the area, from the seabed, with commercial purposes and of course commercial scale, which is much, much bigger than this test moment that we are living right now, or that we are experiencing right now. But it's really important to say that we have no regulations, or we have no regime or rules of the step-by-step to really taking out these resources in a commercial way. So that's why I put there this really red triangle, because you actually are not allowed it yet to go from the exploration phase, that would be this testing way, like really understanding the whole context, to the exploitation phase of really extraction. But speaking about the impacts, what would be the problems of going for deep sea mining? Actually, there are, as all human activities that interact with the environment, there are many impacts related to it, such as noise, light, the regeneration of sediment plumes that can be a problem for a lot lot of benthic organisms that live in the deep sea. And without even speaking that, we have no idea on how this type of activity would behave, for example, considering climate changes. There are future scenarios regarding climate and other activities in the sea that we don't know how the deep sea mining would really interact. So actually the truth is that we are kind of blind yet in that sense of understanding what would be the true impacts of deep sea mining. And of course, there is an extra problem that is related to the deep sea itself. The truth is that even though we are getting to know more and more about these areas, we don't have, actually we don't know about all the species that are there, or even what are the functions or ecological roles of these species and how this environment really works. So even if we start, eventually if we start a deep sea mining activity, we might lose biodiversity that we don't even know that exists. And more than that, we know that a lot of treatments and cures for many diseases can be found in the sea, and of course in the deep sea area as well. So we might lose something that could even have a good impact in our health and human well-being. Sorry. So finally, after all of that, why should we really care about deep sea mining? What actually does this has to do with any one of us that are seated right there in a place really far from the ocean? Why should we really care? And the truth is that what a lot of people actually don't know is the resources found in the area are common heritage of mankind. And this means that it belongs to me, it belongs to you, it belongs to our family, and to anyone that is in the planet right now and that will be in the planet forever. It belongs to the humanity. So we are having discussions right now about the resource that belongs to us as well. And one very critical thing about that is actually no one speaks about it. I don't know about you, but without being discussing that in my in relation to my work, I don't see any news or any kind of dissemination of this type of information for the public. So that's very important. We need to discuss about this. And just as important is to mention the planetary health in this sense, because we need to understand how the ocean works and what is our relationship and how our relationship to the oceans is related to our well-being. Everything is interlinked, and then we need to have a good idea on how to manage that for now and for the future generations. Thank you. Nicole, I think you're muted.
Unmute, yes, there was a mess. Yes. I could not unmute myself. See, this is this technology tries to control us nowadays. So that's fantastic, Maila. Thank you so much for it. Was very clear, something a theme that is very complex, and you make it sound very simple, and that's very good for us. I also highlight the importance of transparency, and I think that's one of the key points that we would. One of the reasons we are trying to bring this conversation is that. People really don't know a lot about this. And I think we do believe that for the planetary health reasons, that's definitely something important. So I do see that we do have some questions. So I think I would invite also Maike to introduce herself. She's also part of our team. So Maike, please, over to you.
Hi, I'm Maike. I'm also working at the IASS, and I'm helping with the Women Leaders project. And yeah, so one of our first question is how stakeholders are being involved and how the public can be involved, because like it isn't really an everyday activity, and but it might have an impact.
Well, thank you for the question. And part of it, I think it's actually our $1 million question, because there is we are in such an urgent moment to really involve the public, the general public, that people that have not even contact with science or with these type of issues that are really far from sight. So I think that us as scientists and as people that have access to this type of information, we need to improve our efforts in whenever that things we can really reach. So through social media or through our journalists or people we know. We need to put these discussions for the world and really make this public so that people can really understand what happens and make their own decision, and being really critical about if they would like to have deep sea mining activities, taking resources that are common heritage of mankind, and if for them to really balance the benefits, the pros and the cons of this type of activity. And regarding the other stakeholders type of involvement, there is a lot of space to really improve the processes even within the ISA, and really to put other sectors and more people together to these discussions, and then have like a more integrated panorama or a more integrated solution for this deep sea mining regime big questions. So yes, there is definitely a lot of space to really improve these stakeholders and the public engagement.
Great, I see. So I have so many questions, but I would like to also, give space for our participants here, and I'll maybe combine a few. A question here. So we know so little about the deep sea and the impacts that it suffers. How can we know that this ongoing exploration is not already affecting the ecosystems? And then also someone asking here, what's the most challenging part of your work? During a PhD, I think you have so many challenges, so please choose some. And also another question here is this: the deep sea mine is needed for the sustainable transition. That's the narrative you were mentioning, right? That's an interesting question, because it said in the deep sea ecosystems may be extra vulnerable. So when do we know enough about impacts to move from exploration to exploitation? How much do we accept? That's the fine line that I think all countries are trying to decide, through these regulations. And another question here, someone related to how do we ensure that countries with poor environmental policies, such as Brazil, especially at the moment, will not neglect impact assessments from these activities? Someone just like to combine this.
Yeah. Okay, so actually I took note here of 4 main topics, which is exploration, the thing of the PhD, the information, how much information would really need to go for the exploration, and this public policy thing, for example, as Brazil, and this 4 policy thing related to environmental assessments. So regarding exploration, there is an understanding within the ISA that the scale in which these exploration activities have been conducted so far has no size, or there is no scale to really compromise the ecosystems or to really cause a big impact on that. But the truth is that so far we haven't had many experiences or any monitoring that could really say something to us about how, for example, test mining activities that are taking place or are planned to take place could really show us in terms of impacts on biodiversity or processes or everything. So we actually still we are still touching in the dark related to that. We have no idea, but there is an understanding, at least from the ISA, that there is no enough scale with regard to exploration to really cause damage, even though this is debatable. Regarding my PhD, well, I think I specifically work with the ecosystem approach for deep sea mining, which means to really understand how we can consider this process in a more holistic way, really considering the human facets and even the economic, the environment, and try to put all together and really work in a integrated manner. So even though I don't go into cruises or such cool things like this, unfortunately not yet, but for me it's actually whenever I pay attention to the many angles which are possible coming from this process, especially regarding the stakeholders and even a lot of politics that is involved with all of this, I think that the challenge is huge, and it's not about my PhD, it's actually about the process itself. So of course this is reflected in my PhD because that's what I'm studying, but we need to really combine a lot of interests to into this such complex activity that we don't have many information about yet. So I think that the biggest challenge is just to put everyone in the table and try to understand the different interests, the different perspectives of everyone that is really involved with this process, and of course always include the public and the society as being at least aware of what's going on. So actually it's a very complex theme to work. Regarding the enough data, that's also $100 million question. It's very difficult, and even for scientists, there is no thing like, thing like, okay, whenever we reach this point, we know enough. So I think we are working on a step-by-step approach, try really to understand what are the processes and what are the functions, because of course we can speak about going there and understanding, okay, so these species occur there and these other species occur there. But we really, as I said during the presentation, we really need to understand what are the roles of this species and this whole ecosystem, and how this is all connected, and what kind of problems we might have if we lose this whole connection. So I think that one good way to really go ahead is really having a lot of modeling. I think this is a good way to really spread and generalize more to get to know about the ecosystem. But I think that we still need to focus more on understanding these dynamics that not necessarily modeling would bring to us, to really have more answers or a little bit more of security. And as I told already, we haven't had any type of really trials or really real monitoring to see what is really happening with a mining type of activity. So we are still with a lot of gaps and a lot of lack of information that it really compromises giving such an answer. Nicole, do you mind repeating a little bit more about the
No, there was a question also about Brazil, right? On this impact assessments, perhaps it gives a chance to, I would like to complement that, because you were mentioning, first, Brazil is in an interesting position at the moment related to this agenda. So I think it's worth sharing with our participants what is happening there related to deep seabed mining. But another question that I would think is very important for, you know, a network like us here is that how do you see this issue of gender equality, you know, and equity in terms, because we do know, I think you know better than us, there is a lot of researchers that are female in the area actually. But I think, do you see equality, equity opportunities there? So I would like to combine, because you're saying we need different perspectives. So how diverse is, in fact, this environment?
Well, so I'll start with this one and then I go to the Brazil thing. But it's very interesting to discuss that, because we can have many layers on thinking about that. So for example, we know that I've been even exchanging with some researchers about their perceptions on women really working with deep sea related issues, and apparently the perspective brings that there are a lot of women actually really working with deep sea, but in kind of more junior positions. And when we come to this, because when we are talking about deep sea, but there is not only, we have an application about this with this science related to deep sea. So we have this layer about developing knowledge, developing data, and the idea is that we bring this knowledge to decision makers. So there is like, there is not all like knowledge for knowledge, even though I don't believe there is such a thing, but even in the deep sea mining thing, we are really producing knowledge to really go and defend it or even debate it with decision makers. So whenever we think about decision makers, whenever we go to, for example, on a ISA meeting that I had the opportunity to be for 2 times now, we see that a lot of people that are really representing more most of the delegations or really speaking are men yet. So we see that there are this type of disruption between women really producing knowledge and really women being there as decision makers, and of course using this knowledge as part of this decision. So definitely there is room also for improvement, and we need more women there in the front and really taking decisions and really putting their science-based opinions, of course. So yes, I think there is definitely a very important topic and debate. Okay, so I have time to speak about Brazil, can I? Great. So as you just mentioned, we have a very interesting and very unique type of situation for Brazil right now, because as you could see in the map, in the presentation, Brazil was or is, has an exploration contract with the ISA. But we are also aware that Brazil is in the middle of a process to really extend the continental shelf of the country, which would really incorporate this area that Brazil has interest to explore for mining purposes. So now we have this transition from the ISA place of really managing this exploration area to a place that would be managed through Brazilian regulations, or so Brazilian laws. And we have no laws, we have no environmental impact assessment regulatory mechanism that would really incorporate the complexity of going so deep and really understanding this whole impacts. Of course, we don't know, even with all the nations and everyone going together to really understand what are in these areas and how to manage them. But Brazil has no technology yet and has no regulatory framework to really deal with such a type of activity that, of course, would be very much different from mining inland or some other type of activities. So we now need to be really we need to be really aware that and pay a lot of attention in how Brazil would actually deal with that for the next few years or more.
I don't know. I think we cover most of the questions, Dan. And we do have, 3 minutes. And what is interesting, perhaps, is that for people who are not, we're also recording this event, so we might have many experts in the virtual room here. But also for people who they don't know what's happening. So if we didn't have COVID, we would probably be in Jamaica right now. And what is happening? What's the next step for those international negotiations?
Well, so as you said, we probably would be in Jamaica now in July, really seeing these negotiations still taking place. And what they are really discussing right now is that the rules for really mining and extracting these minerals in a commercial basis. So the name of that is exploitation. However, we have seen a lot of discussions. There is no consensus yet on a lot of issues regarding the exploitation. One of these is, for example, what would be the economic model to be used, how the profits coming from this type of extraction would be really spread in the world, considering the equity issues. And of course, because of this lack of science, the environmentalists and also scientists are not happy with the text and what we have so far. So there has been a lot of discussions, and I believe these discussions will be extended for some time yet before we have any type of consensus ongoing for really, really deep sea mining, extracting these resources.
Well, I think that's the perfect, there's no conclusion, right? Because we are in this ongoing, I like to call, I wrote also a piece on that, and it's like the game of nodules. No? We are really playing with, but what is important as we're talking about this common, heritage of humankind. So I would invite you all to continue this conversation. Perhaps if we didn't address your questions, we keep it and we try to address them in the LinkedIn group. So I think you have the link in the chat. Join us, and please subscribe to our channel, because we're going to put this video there, and perhaps you love it so much you want to watch. You would like to rewatch it, send to your friends, and we can all together really start a campaign to bring more attention to what is happening in the deep sea of our ocean, right? So
Yeah.
with that, I would like to really thank you, Maila, for taking the time and explaining with this amazing pictures. Also to Mikey, who is also amazing, always saving us here. And we would be usually we have this coffee breaks every week, so please stay in touch so you can get the invitation for the next. So with that, thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you all.
Bye.